see that we own it
Again. Yeah. Yep.
again.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna start this episode off with talking about wins off top.
Hey,
So,
Geoff. It threw me for a second there because we didn't
yeah.
have our little intro thing. Sabrina's going to work
Right.
on that this week. But
We
yes, Geoff, let's talk about some wins on this Saturday night.
freaking beat Star hits again.
Again, for what, the third time?
I think it's more than that. Or maybe I'm compiling like because I just know how many claims I've had between here and the other one from What's Your Mentality.
Yeah, well, it's okay. We're going to have our own. And then we're going to get big enough and we're going to go to the score and we're going to get that on here.
Yeah.
Born for, well, I can't say this. That song that I love, we're going to get that. Yep.
We'll make them do our own version.
Well, yeah, it'll be great. So, what you been up to this week? Hey, how's my sound, by the way? I kind of did
Sounds good.
Okay, good. All right.
You do
How
some
was your week?
upgrades? What'd you get?
No, I just wanted to make sure that it was okay. You know, I'm insecure about it. All right. How was your week?
So it was it's it's been busy. Things have been really, really busy, and I always have because like our CEO of First Form, Andy Frisella, he's always like people that say that they're busy. You either let's see, it's not gonna be verbatim, but he's like you're either full of bull or you have poor time management skills. It's like
I think there's a
that's
third option.
I mean, of course, there can be a third option, right? Like that because there's that part of the grind that's just like literally grinding you in the dirt, right? Like, but most don't do that. It's always a ploy to like why they don't want to do something else because they priorities, right?
Well, I'll tell you, in between my 3 kids, the Army, my civilian job, Rotary, my leadership, and I've got a couple different board positions now in Rotary. This, I'm missing something. That's like minutes, like every minute of my day.
Did you say like mom? Did you say wife? Did you say caretaker? Did you say?
I know I said 3 kids.
Yeah.
All that stuff together. I mean, we're talking every minute of my day from the minute that I wake up until the minute I throw in the towel and say, that is it. It is like to get everything fit into a day requires a lot of time management. And I'm very good at time management, but whew, I'll tell you, I'm got a lot of balls juggling. I'm, a lot of things in the air.
No, I feel that definitely.
I think I could probably be better with my time management, though. Honestly,
I think we all could. I know I could for sure because every once in a while, I'm like, but look, we all need our time to ourselves, right? Yeah. But at the same time, like yesterday, I was talking about how busy I was on the couch. But I was busy. I really was. Like I was in a different way, right? Because like work doesn't mean that you have to be moving. You can be connecting. You can be, like networking online, right? Yeah. And that's where a lot of my tasks go. Is like that technological busy, where it's like engagement, right? Because that's how I've grown my brand was by engagement. Like I have connections and resources with people that are like this, that, and like I have people that I'm connected to in Greece that actually listen to us,
Well, and hey, we're connected and we're several states apart.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. That's the beauty of technology. When people talk about like how much they hate social media, and I'm like, man, who do you surround yourself with? If you're depressed because of this, if you hate social media, what are you tolerating?
What do you get onto your feed?
Like, exactly, dude.
What are you feeding into?
Yeah. My Facebook has become like, because there's so many people from my past and stuff like that on there, that like I love my Instagram. I love Instagram for the simple fact of like, that is a new me built platform for myself. my page is what's up, Caroline. That
Yeah,
is
we've
a
missed you the last
new.
couple weeks.
Yeah, she hasn't been here.
It is. It's your opportunity to rebrand and regrow and reflect who you are.
Yeah. Like that one was created like in the last, right? Like 2020, at the beginning of 2020.
Yep.
And it's just really cool to, the type of people that I associate with there, or like the type of, resources that I've found on Instagram and stuff like that have been phenomenal. It's
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
leveled me up.
I think social media is a brilliant, positive, wonderful life force for good that has a shadow side that, if it is not tightly managed and controlled, can overtake and overwhelm. And I think it can become that malevolent force that a lot of people think that it is. I think that it is what you make of it, and it is like everything else in your life. Whatever you put into your social media, that's what you're going to get from it. So if you're putting that force out in the world, and if you're allowing it onto your page, if you're not moderating the people in the discussions that start and demanding respect and things like this, I think that you're going to get the crap that comes out of it.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure.
My light's flickering. It's possessed.
Which light?
Do you see my ring light? Do you see it every now and then? It'll flicker.
Yeah.
So we say that there's we have a poltergeist in our house, some kind of a spirit. His name is Larry.
Larry, why y'all?
I don't know. Izzy named him, and then
Okay.
Larry, like our lights in our they'll just like flicker.
Yeah.
In our fan that or our lights that we have in our family room, and we just say, "Hey, Larry, we need this," or whatever. Now apparently he's in my ring light. But no, I love social media. I'm not a lover of Instagram yet. My daughter assures me that I will be once we get all this stuff straight and set and everything else. But man, Facebook, I love Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook's just so much more closed off to like, it's not private, right? It's not private, but it's more closed off on how accessible you are, the way that I view it.
I mean, seriously. What do you mean?
People can access you easier on Instagram. Like if you're not private, right? Yeah. Like if you have a public profile, anybody can look at you and it doesn't matter.
I'm not on Twitter, Patrick. I'm not a twit.
Twitter? I have Twitter. I have one follower.
Yeah, I don't tweet. To me,
I don't use Twitter for anything, and I don't really care about Twitter. Like it's literally just opinions all day long.
And I don't really care.
And
so it's not a platform that I can use, right? Because I'm a big writer.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Just can't do that on Twitter. So to me, it's useless.
Twitter isn't posting pictures either, right? So like it's literally just thoughts. It's just thoughts. People just like spitting out like, and I don't really spit thoughts like that. Like where I call it like spit thoughting, right? That's my Instagram. That's my stories. That's the stories, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that's where I have a hard time. Like whenever I'm doing the our What the Bluff stories from my stories, it's hard for me to, cause like I have to catch, like I can't just flip my mentality to what I want to say on. That would be different
because it's different, right? Because What the Bluff is different. I have to catch a
different personality that I'm gonna throw out there, than I would on my Instagram, because I'll be a lot more raw on my personal platform than I will on that platform, right? Because that platform is a representation of me, because it's not just me; it's an extension of you and me. So it's got like a little bit softer touch, right? So there's not just like the F-bomb here or the F, and I don't do that, right? Like I don't say it all the time. Like I will just sometimes say a F-bomb just to get a rise out of somebody.
Just because it's an effective word.
It is very effective. It's very effective. It's very efficient for 4 letters. Like who knew that 4 letters could be so strong, from an S-bomb to an F-bomb, a Sierra I'll tell you, to a Foxtrot.
Yeah, like so the English language, this is my theory. This is my unresearched and unvetted theory. But here's my thought.
Your theories are always vetted, by the way.
This is not. This is kind of based on loose things that I have not actually researched. So before anybody quotes this as gospel, I'm going to say, I have not researched this. I have not written a paper on this. I haven't read a lot of material on this. I am not a linguist by any means. But so English is based on, it's a Germanic language, right? So English is an evolution of German. We have a smattering of Romance language words in there from Latin. We have some Greek words in there, particularly with our suffixes and prefixes. Okay, so, but it's a Germanic language. And the German language is a much more efficient and less emotional language. And English, of course, is not a very emotional language. It takes a lot of adjectives for us to emote that other languages don't. So, like, for instance, I forget, I think it might be Japanese, I can't remember, has like dozens of words for the word love. And they mean different things because it's just a much more emotive language than English is. So we have to use every word in our arsenal in order to be able to communicate these things. So when the F word is there, that's because there's not another word that construes that exact same meaning. We have to use every word that's available to us because we don't have that many. That's my theory.
That's funny that you say we don't have that many, and I struggle with the 4 words that I know. And I know they're way more than that. There's a whole book that's this thick of just words.
Which
not even
apparently
sentences.
you used to read as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That's what your mama said.
And have forgotten. She is not lying. I thought it used to be so cool to read through dictionaries and thesauruses and stuff like that.
Love
Like,
them.
and that's something that maybe I'll do in the future. Like whenever I'm on a hopefully the Trans-American Trail Run, I have like, oh man, so that's going to be interesting because like I've been kind of like planting those seeds, and I have a couple nonprofits that I have in mind that I want to work with for this, that people that would have, I don't want to say the pockets to do it, but they would have it's the same thing,
The
right? Like it's just saying,
reach,
it's just
the
it's still
ability to gather the resources. Yeah.
But for some people that doesn't have as big of a as deep a pocket, right? It's harder to express that goal because it's such an expensive goal. So like, let's just say to run it, to do it, it's going to be about 30 grand. But you're also going to have an RV that costs a good bit of money, right? So like you have to have resources where those things don't even matter, right? Or you have to know somebody that is willing to donate that for that time. Like maybe it's an RV company and they're like, oh yeah, we'll just write that off and you can use this for 160 days. You can wrap it, right? For the marketing, and then the wrap comes off when you're done, right?
Right. We have one of my neighbors has a wrapping company here.
Those are so awesome, man. I have a friend here locally that wraps and does tent and all that good stuff too. I absolutely love wraps. The thing that I did not love was whenever I found out that it only lasted for like 4 or 5 years on a vehicle, and I was like, I'm not spending $5,000 on 5 years.
You know the good thing about when you start engaging a lot of the smaller nonprofits that may not have the deep pockets is sometimes they have a wide reach.
Yeah.
So their focus and their goal is a little bit different. So maybe they're like a gathering resource and things like this, and you band together and you put some of these things together, and then you get what you need. Well, because of course, a lot of these smaller nonprofits, they're trying to get their feet in the ground, and the way to do that is by banding with other ones to support things like yours.
Yeah. Well, and then, when something's that expensive, it's hard to get past like, if I spend this 30 grand, this could cripple us. Yeah. But if you spend that 30 grand, you could make $250,000 because of like the impact and the reach and the everything else that it's going to, and then the traction and because then whenever you're in the activity, when you're doing when you're doing the thing, right, that's energy. And throughout that energy, I'm telling you, the mindset that I have and the energy that I bring with me is nothing short of phenomenal. And that's that part. Like in my mind, I have built the ego to know that the value I bring. And I'm going to tell you, so with that ego also comes a very, very aggressive imposter syndrome, because on the days where I'm like not mentally strong, I am very mentally weak in the fact of like, I question my value. And that's happened a lot lately. Like with setting up this event and stuff like that. And then knowing that I'm going to be speaking in front of people and then having my front tooth fall out, like half of my front tooth broke out. Right. You
Looks
know what I'm
great, by
saying?
the way.
And thank you. And the smile's back on point. Right. So, and that's, thank you. Huge thank you to Santa Rosa Smiles for keeping me looking good.
She did
And
you
making
a solid,
sure,
for sure.
Man, absolutely did a solid, so Dr. Frigo over at Santa Rosa Smiles, I'm going to have to make a little advertisement for this and post this up and share it with her. Cause I don't even think she knows that I have a podcast, and I'm going to add that into it as well. So that way she knows that she can come listen.
So,
yeah.
But I get why that happens though, right? We used to do this. I think I might've said it a few times on here, right? You got to keep your bucket filled. But when you live as intensely as you do and as I do in our different arenas, your bucket empties out quicker. And it's hard to keep it filled. Like, not that it's not people, right? We don't need people feeding the ego and things like that. That's not what keeps the bucket filled. But the things that we need to keep the energy up and the rejuvenation and things like that, that kind of feeds into what we want to really talk about today. But when you live aggressively, you empty your bucket. You've got to keep it filled. You've got to find those ways to do it. And it's those small wins every day that lead us further into accomplishing purpose and goals and things like that. That's what refills the bucket. So the imposter syndrome, it goes along with it, right? Like the lower your level gets in your bucket, the more you start thinking to yourself, I just don't have anything left. Why do I think I can do this? What is it about me? All those things are easy to get in. And then your bucket starts filling up again. And then you realize this is what I have. Like you're rejuvenated and you can go. It's a constant cycle. It's hard to live intensely because it's exhausting. But when you don't know any other way to be, I don't know how else to be other than to care intensely and love intensely and live intensely and focus on these things that I care deeply about. I don't know how else to do things.
No, it's just it's passion and care. It's the empathy. It's the person, like those qualities and the morals that you possess deep inside of you. You know what I'm saying? That make you like want to be that. Like it's like sometimes I just want to tell people, man, I love you so hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just that intense, right? Like, cause like, dude, you have like people say, man, I would die for you. You don't know what that actually means.
What that means, unless you've actually put yourself in a position.
You know what I'm saying? Like love, the exact opposite of love, like is hate. And if you don't, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Because the ability to not love is want to cancel them out, right? Like drop that X on them, so you have to be able to, and I'm not saying that you have to be able to possess that quality, but you still have to know the opposite end of that spectrum. You have to know
the shadow side of it. So you're saying that love and hate are opposite sides of the coin.
I would say that they're like a heads and tails. What would you say? What
Indifference. Indifference.
Indifference on like what you don't know if you love somebody?
I think it's indifference. See, Kim agrees with me.
Yeah.
I think because when you love somebody, you care deeply, right? When you hate somebody, you still care deeply. Like, but you're not caring in a positive way, but to hate somebody takes as much energy as it does to love. So I think if loving is an intensity, I think the opposite of that is indifference.
Okay, like so if you love somebody, you want to take care of somebody. Like, because there's people that I hated that I never loved, that I never had a love for. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know how to truly hate somebody if you've never been hurt by someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, because
but think about that.
That's how the hate develops, right?
So look at us and our jobs, right? As soldiers, we go in there and we protect you, whether we love you or hate you.
Yeah.
If our country is indifferent to you, we're not putting our lives on the line. Love and hate it's just a different.
So explain to me. Okay, so maybe it's because I'm not. And look, this is one of the things that I love about doing this stuff with you. What's indifferent then? Like, explain to me. Cause like I would not even know right now how to use it even in a sentence.
when you are indifferent to something, it doesn't impact you. You don't care about it. You don't waste a moment about it. There is no intensity. There's no passion. There is
It's like if you
nothing.
left my life right now, whatever. It didn't
But
matter anyway, right?
but you'd still, there'd be hurt. There'd be some sort of intensity around it. If you are ambivalent or indifferent,
Ambivalent, like.
and,
Here we go. Let's write about that one too. That'll be the one.
hey, look, I've got a growing list, and another one.
Indifferent and what's the other word? I want to be ambivalent.
Yeah, I've got them.
Ambivalent.
And then I had another word I thought about today when I was going through to see what was left in our journals. Preparation. Yeah. See, Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. Look, I like this. He went on and he gave his definition.
Okay, so,
lack of interest.
Real quick. You need to know who that is. Matt is the guy
Matthew,
that's
nice
been.
to meet you. Who is he?
He's the guy that works at Legendary Marine. That he's done a lot of photo editing for me and stuff like that. And not just editing, but like help me. That video you watched. That's awesome. That's the creator. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's the man that put that together.
Some mad talent there, Mr. Matthew.
Yeah, mad skills, dude. Mad skills.
So
he's gonna be one of the photographers that we have at the event.
So if you think about love as an intensity, an intensity and an affinity for somebody, then ambivalence is a lack of intensity and a lack of affinity. You just don't care. Mm-hmm. You don't care so much that they're not even a thought that flits across your head. You don't think about them. You don't care about them. You don't worry about them. But when you hate somebody, you still have that intensity of feeling.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it's the same side of the coin.
It's a seesaw a little bit. Yeah. I can mean,
because you see people say, I have a love-hate relationship with you. The key is relationship.
I can agree and disagree with the love-hate thing. Like, yeah, I can feel it. I could see, where that would make sense. And then the indifferent of just like, being like cold is really the absence of heat. No, like cold is really the absence of, am I reading this wrong? Or am I just like cold
is the absence of heat.
Yeah.
So in science, right? We say that in order to get cold, you have to add something to it. That's not what cold
is. But is cold actually the absence of heat or is something so cold? Because like, have you ever been burned by ice?
So scientifically, in order to get cold, you're removing heat. Heat is the additive.
But sometimes they'll give you the exact same injury. Like you ever seen a heat burn and a cold burn?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they're different. They're very different, but they're not the same thing.
Kim's looking at it like from the scientific definition of what is cold. It's the absence of heat.
She's probably thinking on the other side, this guy really is something serious.
So why? Okay, so we talk. I want to go back to when you were talking about the imposter syndrome, and then we kind of tied it into buckets and things like this. So May, of course, we know is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Absolutely. Oh, that's perfect.
Isn't it? It's amazing. So Mental Health Awareness Month. If you follow the news, you know that in the last several weeks, there have been a rash of student athletes in colleges and things like this who have died by suicide. And it catches people's attention and things like this because we don't know what's going on. And people say, I didn't see it coming and things like this. And we say, well, didn't you see the signs and didn't you recognize the signs? And what we know through people that we've known who, one, have either died by suicide or attempted death by suicide, that there aren't always, the signs don't always fit the checklist.
Everybody does. So not everybody sends out warning shots.
And sometimes they're extremely hidden. You think that somebody might be doing well. You think that they might be on an upswing and things like this. And it's just, so with veterans in particular, which I know is near and dear to both of us. So first of all, some facts and statistics about suicide across the world that might be kind of shocking to a lot of people if you haven't really thought about it. So in 2020, I created a presentation that I delivered because I do, this is a topic clearly I'm passionate about, and I deliver talks about this. And one of the ones that I did, I pulled it up here to review. So suicide is among the top 20 causes of death worldwide. Top 20 causes of death worldwide.
It's
20
pretty high
million
up number.
humans attempt or harbor serious thought about suicide. 20 million humans.
And that's probably on the low end.
Well,
Because
it
how
might
many
be.
people won't talk about it? How many people
Right.
don't go to therapy? How many people? That's
Right.
based off of what is actually there.
What's known, right?
So you're probably at about like a quarter.
Well,
Because
maybe,
more people are probably like
maybe.
on a daily basis. I hate my life.
And these are all from the World Health Organization and the International Association for Suicide Prevention. So 800,000 deaths in the world annually. Now, this is in 2020. And I suspect it's probably not that much different now, although I know that we've hit a spike in veteran death by suicide. But that's one death every 40 seconds. 800,000 deaths around the world annually, one death every 40 seconds all year, which means that there's 108 million humans, friends, family, co-workers across the world who are profoundly impacted by suicidal behavior, either because somebody they know, closely associate with, or love has either suicided, attempted it, or had ideations about suiciding. So these are startling statistics that a lot of people we don't realize how prevalent it is, because we think for some reason it's like a one-off. It happens, but gosh, it doesn't happen to people we know. And statistically, as we've just seen, we know that that's not true. So veterans, 8.5% of the population of the United States have served or are serving. This is everybody. So if you served or are serving, 8.5% of the population, but 18% of suicides in the United States. Almost 3/4 of the male veterans and about 40% of female veterans who suicide use firearms to do it, mainly because you think about veterans, right? We're self-selected affinity for firearms and things like this. Between 2008 and 17, when they started keeping statistics and linking them into the military actions that we had, over 6,000 veterans suicided every year. In 2017, about 124 people in American suicide every day. 16.8% of them were veterans. So this was in 2020. This is the last thing. So I know there's updated statistics now that came out from 2019 that I need to look at. So in 2017, 124 Americans every day suicided. Almost 17 of them were veterans. So when we talk about the 22 a day, you hear that all the time. That's veterans and service members who are still in active service. So a lot of people think, well, that's just the active duty. No. Veterans and service members who are still in active service, either active duty, National Guard, or Army Reserve. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among military service members. Second leading cause of death among service members.
What's the first? Combat?
Yeah. Combat and training together. Yeah. So in 2018, now it's people talk about the active duty a lot, right? Because when we talk about our armed services, that usually gets a lot of the attention, because of course people think active duty, but the Guard and the Reserve are huge parts of our American service components that we have. So in 2018, per 100,000 soldiers, 24.8 active service component members suicided. It's 24.8 per 100,000. 22.9 reserve component, and 30.6 National Guard service members. So 6 more guardsmen and women suicided than active duty soldiers.
So check this out. Why do you think that would be? Because I can tell you, I thought about this on the way home. With the second that you were we were talking about topics, I was like, okay, so I want to think about something, and I kind of figured we were going to get to this point.
Yeah. So people think they have it good, right?
Well, so I think that because of the way that the National Guard is set up, we're not around each other as much. when I was at that race today, it's like when you see people together, right?
Yes.
Like you get to see these guys doing this event together, the teams and stuff like that, the group, like there's a lot of military bases around where I'm at. I'm like, this is one of the biggest military, and this being here literally has saved my life.
Geoff, you
Guaranteed.
are 1,000,000% right. So people think that you've got it great in the reserve components in the National Guard, right? You've got your civilian job, your civilian friends, you get education benefits, we still get TRICARE, you help your community, you get
But
an
people
extra
don't see your
paycheck.
home life though.
Life is good, right? Yes. But what are the reserve components deal with that the active duty doesn't? We have civilian employers and military employers. And in order to do our military employment, that means that our civilian employers have to deal with the frustration of losing us. Business owners who are National Guardsmen and women and things like this lose businesses, they lose shares, they lose time in the office, they lose opportunities for more schools because we have a dual job, right? Civilian friends don't understand what you've seen and sacrifice. National Guard deploys more than the active component because not only think about Louisiana, right? It had 2 combat brigades. It was deploying all the freaking time. We know men and women who have deployed 6 and 7 times in the Guard. That is not uncommon. And in addition to those overseas deployments, we deploy all the freaking time in the Guard for natural disasters and state emergency responses. So,
but they're just weekend warriors.
Yeah. Oh no, it's just 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. But people forget that the National Guard has a dual mission, right? They have the federal mission to support the politics and the international relations of the United States, and it has a state mission. So who do they call in, right? They don't send in the active duty troops. I mean, unless you have Katrina and you have dual hat, that's a whole separate thing. But that's supported by the National Guard. The National Guard's the one out there pulling you out of your vehicles and pulling you out of your cars when you've refused to evacuate. They're the ones that have been pulled in to give the shots for COVID. All those stations, they were on deployments. After we got back, remember, they were in the airports for years. Like, these are in addition to our civilian jobs. So we deploy all, well, I'm not we anymore. I'm reserved now, but National Guard deploys all the time. And using that TRICARE can sometimes be a challenge because you've got to find doctors who take it, which is increasing now, but it didn't always used to be that way. And finding providers who can take care of your specific military needs is difficult because even here in North Carolina, where I've got Fort Bragg, it's hours away. It's difficult to get out there. So National Guard suicides more often when they're not in service. National Guard soldiers don't typically suicide during deployments or during drills because they are with their people. They have chains of command around them. They have units. They have all the support.
Well, people can see the signs at that point because what are we always in each other's shit?
Right.
Like, so that was one of the things, like just seeing I was like, I started literally like being around those guys. I was like, man, I want to do this all the time. Right.
Yep.
Like anytime I get around like massive groups of like, yeah, I'm an introvert.
It makes me feel good.
It makes me feel good when I'm around people that like these people understand me. Right. Like, and that's the major thing about the, combating veteran suicide and like everything, it's like, I understand what it's like to be misunderstood. I understand what it's like to feel alone. I understand what it's like when you feel like your unit has turned your back on you. I get that because that happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Like not my immediate unit, not my immediate leadership, but I would say, I call it like my second line chain of command. It's like not my platoon, not my squad leader and my platoon sergeant, the next level, right? Like those guys didn't care. And then there was higher ups above that didn't care. I was just that number, right? Like, and when people start to look at you and they're like, oh, you're a POS.
Yep.
Well, I can't show up to drill because of medication that you wrote me and had me put on and now my leg is wide open and I can't go, and you're going to mark me AWOL while I'm in the hospital.
See, and that's that. I got to tell you, that angers me because we work so hard to constantly mentor our company level officers and NCOs. It's not an us and, but the us and them mentality is so easy to get into. So like you said, once you mark somebody, it's very difficult to have compassion and empathy. And you have to, like, you always mission first, people always. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that kind of thing. But we've gotten a lot better because we've learned so much through all of these deployments. And in the National Guard, when you're literally the world's 11th largest army, the National Guard of the United States is the world's 11th largest army, the 5th largest Air Force, and 38% of the U.S. military force structure. And, you know, people talk a lot about National Guard and Nasty Guard, and they laugh, and, you know, the active duty component has.
It's funny.
Yeah, they, you know, in 2005, the National Guard was over half of the in-country force during OIF 3. Over half of the soldiers in country in OIF 3 were National Guard. So there's a lot of us and them with the active duty components and the reserve components as well. But that's one of the reasons why I always say I encourage people to stay in the reserve components, or if they're coming out of the active duty, to go into the reserve component, because I think that the reserve component allows you to maintain a point of view that the active army doesn't have, right? Because they live in this microcosm. It's a very sheltered and shielded community that loses perspective and attachment to normal civilian life. And I think one of the benefits of reserve component life is that you have these things, but that's a double-edged sword, right? Because when you're a civilian, you're often with people who just don't understand what it is to be military. They haven't experienced what you experience. They don't get it. And you can feel very lonely sometimes, which is why most of the suicides that occur with the National Guard and the reserve component happen when the soldier is not in duty status. Because when you're not in drill or AT or something like this, you're not off duty. You are not in a duty status at all, which for many, many years made it difficult to get access to some of those things that we needed because we weren't in duty status. Yeah. So they had to rewrite a lot of law and a lot of code in order to include that kind of stuff. So, but that's why the big six, the American veterans of, you know, what is it? The AMVETS, disabled American veterans. Yeah, all of those. Let's see, the American Legion, Vietnam Veterans of America, Paralyzed Veterans of America, and Veterans of Foreign War, the big six. That's why they are constantly, and actually I think should be doing a better job of reaching out to recent veterans, the younger veterans, right? Because a lot of these people, they're aging out, right? Even our Vietnam veterans they're getting very old now, and they're aging out, and they're not getting the global war and terror veterans, you know, the veterans from the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, they're not getting those. And we need that because that keeps us connected. But I'll tell you right now, I keep meaning to go and stop off at the American Legion and join. I keep meaning to go and join Veterans of Foreign, VFW. I keep meaning to join these veterans organizations, and I haven't. And I think maybe it's because I'm still in. So I still have the connection. So I don't know. And you have all the things that you do, so you still stay connected. But are you a member of any of those? Or any veterans organization?
No, not really. I was doing the American Legion thing for a while, but I just got distracted majorly. I was like rubbing my fingers on the, I was at this run today, right? And I was rubbing my fingers on the back of my knee, and I was like, what is this? And I thought it was like, I don't know, a pimple or something like that, right? And so like I pull on it, and I'm like, what? And I try to squeeze it, and then like,
this is gross.
I know, right? So like I do like this, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a freaking tick. Yeah, so I just killed a tick. It was freaked me out because I was Geoff. Like, So like that's why I started like rubbing the back of my neck. I started like having a panic attack a little bit for a second. So yeah, I just pulled a tick out the back of my knee.
Spray, tick spray.
I mean, I didn't look. This was like I wasn't supposed to be running today, but sometimes it happens. Like when you get to the end of a run and you're doing a support and things like that, and then you see your people need you to like that energy, right? Like it's time to. And I was in old
you better
shoes.
Look at that tick. You better make sure it's not one of those ticks. The heck is it? A Lone Star tick? I know a guy who got bit by a Lone Star tick, and now he's allergic to red meat. He and his son, neither one of them, can eat red meat because that tick made them allergic.
Huh.
No joke. They are no joke, those little buggers. So anyway, yeah, I've gone to some American Legion meetings, and I'm the youngest person there by decades.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that they're struggling with right now is trying to, how do you reach out and appeal to the younger veterans? Because we need that connection in order to stay mentally healthy and to keep that bucket filled.
I tell you what, one of the things is that keeps me so inspired and stuff like that is really being able to connect with this community. Like being able to like having set 22 come up as stressful as it is setting it up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it without the people. Like I have had a ton of people that have helped me on this journey, like out of this community, and not even in the direct community, but just like in different areas that are like sharing it, supporting it, sponsors, right? Like we have sponsors for this from California, New York, like literally West Coast to East Coast, and it's beautiful. It's awesome. But whenever I get to go and then be around our veterans and be around, our nation's heroes and stuff like that, and guys that are still in, is that sense of like, even though I'm not in, but just the mentality and being around the energy and stuff like that,
it's a sense of belonging that you never lose.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And that is enough that it puts a lot back into the coffers, right? To keep us filled so that we keep that imposter syndrome at bay.
Yeah, I don't know if. See, that's the weird thing is when the imposter syndrome hits me, is when I'm laying in bed at night. Like when I lay in bed, like I'll just be, and Jazz will ask, she's like, "What are you thinking about?" And I'm just like, nothing. I'm just thinking, right? Like sometimes it's just not something that's easy for me to discuss or want to discuss because I know that I'm going to carry on to it and I'll hold on to it until like the next day or something like that. And I'm just going to think about it, right? Because that's imposter syndrome. As crappy as it is, it inspires the fire out of me to work harder, right? Like it's that never good enough and look, this is where that double-edged sword of is like that never good enough mentality. I've never arrived. Like I'm not whatever. Like makes me work hard. It makes me work hard for people. It makes me want to empty that bucket for people. It makes me want to give. Like you know what I'm saying. And I feel like that never good enough mentality is very important to have. You just have to know how to use it instead of like crippling yourself, but to build yourself up. And because you have to be able to recognize like, okay, well, I'm not going to destroy myself with this mentality. I'm going to use this to work hard and then develop results and then create momentum. You know what I'm saying? And then and that's only due to, look, what else is that tied to? Never settling. Nothing's ever good enough, right? And I'm not in a weird way, right? Like not in a bad way, but nothing's good enough in the fact of like, I'm going to work hard for more. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to allow anything to be like, oh, I'm not going to settle for this. I'm going for the best, right? So that's just kind of like.
I'm wondering, like I'm sitting here as you're talking, I'm wondering how I respond to it when I feel it. And I think I get a little bit more, I think I get introspective and I say to myself, okay, so I don't think I'm worth it, or I don't think that I should be doing this, or what do people see in me that I'm not seeing in myself? So then I start thinking about it from the perspective of other people, like, right, like what do they see in me, and is it true? Is what they see in me a true reflection of me, or is it just something that I'm putting out? So then I sit there, like I take inventory. What have people said about me? And then, inevitably the good and the bad comes out, right? And Louisa and I used to hear all the time, you're too intense. You're too this, you're too that. And but then I listen to what my friends here say. And when they ask me to do certain things, I kind of think about it. I'm like, okay, is this true? Do I do this, or do I not do this? Or why do they think this? What is it that, and I try to look at it from that point of view, because then it's a more rational and methodical analysis, I guess. Um, and then I try to figure out, like, what is the root of why I feel inadequate now? Like, what's the root of it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got a weird text. Not a weird text. Jazz was like, she texted me. She said, "You better not have laid in that bed covered in ticks."
That's okay, because they're just gonna stick. Well, forget it. I can't say what ticks stick to. It's not polite. They won't go for Jazz. They'll stay on Geoff.
Oh, the nasty stuff. They don't go after sweetness.
Yeah. So they like salty, not sweet. So right. Yeah. So I try to, I think about it that way. So, and then I like, is it true? Like, is this really valid? Like, or am I feeling this way just because I'm overwhelmed, or because I haven't finished a project that I need to do, or because I'm stressed because I keep meaning to, but I haven't. Anyway, I try to, you use it, like you use the negativity to push you, and I just try to get introspective. And
I think it's important though. I like to use I think everybody needs, and that's just me, right?
That's how you motivate. Like you bully yourself and motivate.
And it's like with everything and negativity in life, it's like a lot of I think your boy Tony Robbins has said this, but not just Tony Robbins. There's several other guys that I really look up to said it's like the best revenge is massive action.
Why is Tony Robbins my boy, by the way? I don't
because
think
the last time you mentioned a quote one time and you were like, I don't want to do this quote because I don't really like him that much. And
no,
so
I think
you swapped the quote and you put something else. So I don't remember what it was. It had something. I think it was the thing.
It was about leadership.
It was about leadership, but what was the quote? You remember?
I don't know. I'd have to go back through 50 million texts.
Was it the one that was about the I'll be walking to work, and then my son will be driving.
No, that one was recent. We just talked about that one.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back. Man, you're talking now 9 weeks. I'd have to go back to our first podcast and look at those notes to see where that came from.
Nah, I think I have. No, because they would be, where they would be? They would be on the notes for.
Yep, they would be.
The podcast on the Instagram or
whatever. They would be if I go to our text between each other and I go look at the photos.
Oh yeah, you could do that too, maybe.
Didn't I send you a photo?
Probably so. It's on our Instagram.
We have a lot of, but I don't think I put that on Instagram.
Maybe not.
I put a different photo on Instagram.
But you had that written down anyway.
I did.
Hey, another thing.
What?
I just got my plane ticket, so it's 100% official where I'm going on June 15th.
Excellent. You want to talk about
the Ram? I mean, yeah. Well, we can.
Well, I mean, whatever you.
I'm just excited. No, I mean, I'm pumped about like everything. There's just so much stuff going on in life. Man, my nose itches. There's just so much stuff in life that's just building momentum. Literally in every different direction. There's like so much, as much that negativity comes in and like hits us in the face and all this other stuff, like a piece of my tooth fell out the other day.
Yeah.
Oh man. And it's like, there's just so much. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, okay, so
much good things that are taking place with like and building momentum despite like whenever the day when it starts raining all the time and everything like that, whatever,
yep.
it's like constant boom, back to back to back, negative, and then one thing or like so you never back off on those wins. You just like friggin' piece of tooth fell out. I didn't even stress it that bad. Like immediately it hit me. I was like, frick, right? And then all right, cool, whatever. Head down, still working, right? Like I'm still planning. I'm still planning set 22. I'm still working with my guy. I'm still working with these people. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still making stuff happen because I can control that. I still worked out that day. I still got my walk in that day. I still did this. Boom, I'm compounding. But I had one major event. Front tooth broke in half, right? So that could have derailed the whole day. I could have that happened like before lunch.
Yeah.
So if that happened before lunch, I've still got the rest of my day to go. I could have said F everything. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't. I was like, oh, well, I'm like, well, this is going to get weird to get used to for a little while. That thing's sharp, right? So, but by the end of the day, it took care of itself.
Because you kept plugging. But I sit there, I think to myself, I think that there are sometimes, and I can't name specific circumstances, but I am sure I have had days where I've let myself be derailed. Where I've said, well, this is it. This happened and that's it. Can't move on from that.
What happens when you catch your pocket on the freaking knob? And it only happens whenever you've like already got toothpaste on your shirt. You've already got, and then the next thing you know, you're trying to grab a fork out of the drawer, and then it catches your pocket, and then what happens there? It rips your pocket open. Yeah. Like it's like just things like, or like something catches your shirt, your favorite shirt, and then like snags it or whatever.
So
it's like
that reminds me. So when I was driving to the office, I had certain coffee cups that I liked because they like I could sit there and I could drink them and they wouldn't slosh all over the place. Well, there was one day I went in. I was wearing one of my favorite silk blouses. It's a cream silk blouse. Underneath, I forgot if it was my navy blue suit. I don't remember what suit I was wearing, but I looked great. I had court, everything else. I'm sitting there and I'm drinking my coffee, and then traffic starts moving again, and just all over my cream colored silk blouse. So I was one of the first ones always to get into the office because I always liked being there really early. I remember sitting there in the woman's bathroom, taking off my shirt entirely, running it under the faucet so I could get this coffee stain out of there as best as I could. Now, silk and water, not generally the best of friends, but I'm like, I can sit there with a huge coffee stain all across my shirt while I'm sitting there in court, or I could ruin the entire shirt, but at least it'll be ruined like 100%, the whole thing. So I sat there, put it under water, got most of the stain out. I'm sitting there with my silk shirt, drying it underneath the hand dryer in my office. Women are walking in and I'm like, half naked sitting there and all this kind of stuff. But I didn't have a choice. It was 40 minutes home, or I had to sit there and ruin the shirt to get the coffee stain out of there because I couldn't let it derail. I had trial, I had court, I had things I had to do. But there have been other times when I sit there and say, screw it. I got an ink stain on my shirt. Well, I'm done. Like I've let simple things like that, I'll admit to it, and get in the way. I found that quote from Tony Robbins, by the way.
Share it. I got some perspective to share with you.
Well, shoot, now I have to go back and find it again because my phone turned off. But okay, I can hang on. I know what it looks like.
So one of the things that took when I've mentioned like my today problems versus like my addiction problems, listen to this perspective. What if on the day, and I'm just like, this huge hypothetical, right? Like, excuse me, man, my freaking nose is aggravating ever living dog crap out of me right now. I've got a couple. No. I have a couple wild hairs in my mustache, and one of them is like tickling the inside of my nose. So, all right. What if on the same day, and this is a crazy what if, but this has happened to me in the meantime. Listen, like, all right. What if you spilled coffee on your shirt? And this is like kind of like a Crash scene, right? Like a scene from Crash. You spill coffee on your shirt. You're in the bathroom. You're late. I'm running late for court. Now, this is a true story. How would it does not really directly tie to you, but I'm just going to take your situation. 2 different people's lives. Going to court. You're not worried about going to jail because you're doing your job that doesn't pose that threat to you.
Right.
I am in this life of, loss and all this stuff. I have drugs. I have needles. I'm stressed out, right? Like, because I'm about to be faced with going to jail. I'm in the parking lot shooting up.
Not a good thing to do right before you go to court.
And getting, so I pull out and then blood sprays on my shirt. So, now I have court, and what am I going to do to get the blood stain out of my shirt that's got this, spray on it, right? Blood spray. And it's probably, problems of myself and addiction versus the problems of not living that and then investing in yourself. You're worried about your presentation of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the parking lot sticking needles in my arm with the presentation of this.
Yeah.
Yours would actually be oh, well, yeah, of course. That's not how you present yourself as a professional. You want to be on point, all this stuff, right? But then at the same time, I don't want to come in ratchet looking like this because this is my life that's about to be played with, right? But at the same time, I'm stressed out and I'm want that last high before I've got to get in here. But then I have presentation and all this other stuff.
I'll tell you right now, I didn't see this done in North Carolina, but in Louisiana, if we would have seen that blood spray on your shirt or taken a close look at your eye, I promise you, my judge would have sent you for a drug test because we would have recognized that blood spray in your arm for what it was, and you would have been down getting a drug test. Did they drug test you when you went into court that day?
No, because I wasn't on a drug program.
Didn't matter.
I've never.
And my judge wouldn't take a plea from you if you were under the influence of anything. He would ask.
Well, they always ask, but I mean, who isn't hot? Huh?
We'd look at you and things like that, and we would say, yeah. Or the state would say, Your Honor, we request a drug test. Down you go, drug test. And if you came up with anything in your system that meant that you might not be knowing voluntarily and freely offering the plea, we wouldn't take your plea.
Yeah. Well,
and if it came up positive, we might actually hold you in jail overnight so that we could guarantee that the next day you would be sentient.
Huh. Well, funny things don't work like that in Louisiana.
That's what my judge would do.
In Louisiana?
Yeah.
I've never seen that done in Louisiana.
Yep.
Never seen that done.
Well.
And I've been
I
don't go to court
the
often.
19th JDC, they would absolutely put it in there for you. Good times there. But here, no, I haven't seen that done here. So, okay, here's that quote from Tony Robbins. Communication is power. Those who have mastered its effective use can change their own experience of the world and the world's experience of them. All behavior and feelings find their original roots in some form of communication.
Oh, so it's from communication.
Yeah, it was our first podcast, the first one.
Got you.
So that's where that came from. And I liked it. I just wasn't fond of the source.
Right.
Just saying.
He's got some good stuff, though. I mean,
yeah, definitely has a place for sure.
I think he's a great motivator. I don't necessarily agree with people walking on fire to figure out their passion in life, but it's self-created chaos, right? It's something that you control, that you can be powerful of over your own emotions. What are you drinking? Fake water?
You know.
Gee golly, don't you know?
It's my bubbly. That's all I ever drink.
Yeah.
We should try to get sponsorship from them and say, hey, when we break a certain amount of listeners and viewers and things like that, we'll go and say, here it is.
Yeah.
I know you've got Michael Bublé, but look at what I can do for you.
look at the value that I bring.
Yeah. Someday. Goals, right?
Right.
Those are the goals.
100%.
So I had a thought when I was driving home about a book that I could write, because I was sitting. Remember last week we were talking about journaling and things like this, and how we can always make sure that we've got writing resources and things that when we have these thoughts, we can write them down. And I showed you all my various journals. You mocked and teased me a little bit, but we all have that, right? So I thought to myself, what if I did something that was kind of like
That's
based
only
on
because you've got time on me with them. Because I just explained to somebody today, whenever we're getting ready for RAM, that I was like, hey, so I'm bringing it because I'm going to write about the experience every day.
Mhm.
Everything that takes place, good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. I want to write about that, and then like maybe publish a little small book on my RAM journey, on the RAM
Yeah.
experience.
So
But anyway,
I'm trying to think about, because I really want to get this book, because the body of writing that I have is tremendous, and I think it's pretty clear at this point in time that the first offering I have is nonfiction, because that's where I feel like I can give the most of myself. I think I'd like to write fiction at some point in time, but for right now, it's nonfiction. And see, talk about imposter syndrome. That's huge for me, because I think to myself, what on earth could I possibly say that anybody would really care
I
about?
feel
Like,
the same way.
why would anybody care? Although
Who
so
wants to
many
read my
people,
story?
but it's funny, like so many people come back. Like if somebody wants to share a post that I've written, so I make it public, and like somebody that I've never met, and they're not even connected like 5 degrees with me, like there's no connection, will message me and say, I really touched this. I love this. I like the way you write. Like I've never met these people. So I know that there's at least one person out there in the world who would read what I write. But the imposter syndrome is very strong with this. But I think I need to take that stuff that I've written, and kind of look at it and analyze it and say, what's my path to actually getting this down? Like, what's my angle? What do I care about? What's my message? What am I trying to deliver? What am I trying to share? I mean,
Right.
maybe I'm not trying to, maybe there's no moral, like maybe there's no fable involved in it. Maybe it's just, I just want to share a piece of me so that somebody in the world knows that they are not alone in how they feel. I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't really know. But I was having these thoughts after I dropped my son off to school about how I could like schedule this into my day and make this something that I do, so that I could actually accomplish that goal of writing that book that nobody would read. Imposter. See?
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I ordered that book that Shelley told me to order. Maybe I'll read that first. Oh. So we had crawfish tonight. Did you see my text?
I did. How was it?
They were amazing. They came from I can't remember, somewhere over by Lafayette. They sent them in there. So we ordered them Thursday night.
Oh, nice.
And they were live delivered today. These suckers, I mean, I'm telling you, they were big, and they had claw, like so good. So we boiled those today. Some of our friends, my husband, they didn't work together in Louisiana, but they knew each other. We moved up here in August of 18. They came up about a year or so later. So they live in Charlotte now, and Richard and my husband, they work together. So their son is in town. He still lives in Baton Rouge. So they said, you know what? He's up here visiting. Let's boil some crawfish.
So good, huh?
It was. It really was. People who aren't from Louisiana or who have never had boiled crawfish, oh man.
We're having boiled crawfish at the event. Boiled
Yeah, where are you
crawfish,
getting it
boiled
from?
shrimp. It's called the NOLA Boiling Company. We got to do it right. Got to come out of Louisiana.
That's where ours is too. So we had the sausage and the garlic and the potatoes and the onions and the corn on the cob, mushrooms.
Fire.
That's
love
what we
that.
had.
Yeah, I love some mushrooms and some potatoes.
Yeah.
Those
So
potatoes soak up
which
so
boil
much.
are you? Which boil are you? I like the first boil, and maybe I can do the second boil. By the time they get to the third boil, might be too much for me.
A little bit too much heat.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me, man. I just the heat doesn't bother me. But Mr. Matt here, my man, he can eat some hot stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
he's
he's
got
probably
quite
a
the tolerance for some heat.
so what a lot of people
He could probably do like the 5th boil.
fifth boil. So this is the thing that
or the 10th.
a lot of people don't understand. So a crawfish pot is it's huge, right? And most people have one. So when you boil the crawfish and you take them out of in the thing and you dump them out, right? You let them sit for a few minutes. The water comes back up to that boil. You dump them out. You put the thing back in there, but then you put in more boil in the existing water. So
Well, yeah,
you
you got
don't
to
dump
make
out the
sure.
water and start new. So every time you put in another sack of crawfish, you're putting in more seasoning.
That's marinade, man.
Yes. So by the time you get to the 4th and 5th boil, you've got 5 times the amount of seasoning in that water than you did with the first boil. So you're not supposed to switch out your water. And people, they hang around for it. Like I remember people saying, no, I wait until at least the 4th boil. I like some, I'm like, no. I'll eat. I'm first and second boil kind of girl, for sure. Beyond that, can't handle it.
No mas.
No mas, no mas.
No mas,
So,
por favor.
too hot. So, hey, we need to probably wrap up for tonight because I know you got a lot of stuff going on, but we need to talk offline and figure out how we're going to handle next Saturday because, ladies and friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to be able to be live next Saturday night.
No, we won't. No, we won't. We'll probably have to do like.
We can talk about it. We can wrap up and send everybody on their merry way tonight.
For sure. We don't have to hash
chat
out
about it.
Yep.
So
cool.
Let's just wrap up really quickly with the serious things we wanted to talk about. So this is Mental Health Awareness Month. I think mental health is ignored and neglected in a lot of people because it still has, maybe not as much, but it has that stigma attached to it about, there's something wrong with you if you're going through these things, except that your mental health is just as vital and critical as your physical health. And when your body starts sending you those signals, the sneezing and the stuffy nose and the fever, to go to a doctor. But when you're getting the signals in your mental and emotional well-being, that's the same thing. It's time to go and talk to somebody who can help you because your mental and physical health is critical to your well-being. It's critical to the rest of us because you have value in our society. And if you aren't if you're not mentally and emotionally well, then we can't maximize what it is that you're supposed to be doing to make the world a better place. You can't maximize what it is that you're supposed to do to keep your bucket filled. You got to take care of those kinds of things. And to our brothers and sisters in the armed forces who are out there, we know we've gone through it with a lot of our friends. We know that it can be a lonely and scary world. We know that what you faced is more than a person should ever have to endure. But there are too many people out there who want to be part of your recovery and want to be part of those secrets that you hold inside and want to be deep inside your heart. Let us carry you when you feel like you can't carry it anymore. That's what we're here for. No brother or sister left behind ever.
Yeah, agreed.
And whatever we can do, and Geoff does a lot for this kinds of things. Pretty much Geoff's entire being, everything that Geoff does is centered around keeping his mind and body healthy so that he can bring awareness to these things, raise money for these things. And that's something that I endeavor to do more of in my own life, rather than just speaking about it and delivering these talks. Being more directly involved is something that I think those of us who have worn the boots have a duty and obligation to always do, not only for ourselves, but for our brothers and sisters who struggle.
What are our 4 biggest staples about what we do? Educate, entertain, inspire, and impact.
Power. That's right. That's
Right.
right.
And so that's exactly what we're going to do. Everything that we do is done with. You're one of the most caring people that I know. That you are very passionate in the way that you speak and the message that you deliver and stuff like that. And it's just like that's I just absolutely love doing this. and to share this with you is just, it's just awesome, man. Because like the dichotomy of people, of like how we're so polar opposite, and then like we align with everything, with so many things morally, and it's just cool. It's just cool to be able to run parallel on such, different paths. It's cool.
It is, when it shows you, it's not the outside packaging that matters. It's what's in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And if you unpack people and give them a chance to show you who they are, I think you find that the physical differences melt away. So,
Great.
all right. So this is wrap it up for tonight. We will figure it out and we will put it on all of our platforms. Maybe we'll even do a teaser at some point this week to let you know how we're going to handle next Saturday night's things, so that we can support Geoff, send him all the good vibes in the universe so that he can finish this event and the way that he envisions finishing it, so that we can accomplish the goals that he set to accomplish. So we will not be with you live next Saturday night, but we will still be with you somehow or another. We'll figure it out and let you know. But in the meantime, like, follow, and most importantly, Geoff,
Share
with people to bring them onto this, get involved in the conversation, because we're all better when we bluff. You can listen to us on our podcast platforms. You can find us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. And as we grow, we'll be in more places there. But thank you, as always, for joining us. I'm glad with the new people we've met tonight. I'm glad to see some of the faces on that we haven't seen in a while. Some people who are new to our show and know our sharing and following. We get new followers that get the notifications all the time. So glad to share this journey with you. Thanks for being with us. And Geoff, I think that's a wrap, man.
That's a wrap, man. All right. Catch up with y'all later this week. Geoff and Cristina out.
Out.